everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video I'm going to be talking about all of the 5-star predictions that I made last year, whether or not they were 5 stars, and then I'm going to be talking through my current 5-star predictions. So I will link my previous video that I did, I think last year, but basically I just wanted to quickly go through which books I liked, which books I didn't like, which books I DNF'd, because there was actually quite a few that I just decided that I didn't want to read at all anymore. It wasn't the most successful prediction video. I didn't actually get any full 5-star from that video, which is kind of crazy. I did have quite a few 4.5 stars, so I know one of them was The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and also Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. I think I gave Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier maybe a 4 or a 4.5. There were two that I was kind of disappointed in, and that was Reprieve by James Han Matson and A Simple Plan by Scott Smith. I think I gave those like a 3. Two that I didn't really like were Daisy Dark by Alice Feeney and The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead, and I think I gave those like 2 stars. 3 that I had sort of outstanding that I'd not read at the start of this year. I've decided to DNF all 3 of them. So those were Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. And I think I touched on Cleopatra and Frankenstein in my last video where I talked about books I DNF'd, but since then I decided to take off Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow because I feel like I've just missed the boat on it. I'm not very interested in reading it anymore. And then Open Water, I think had potential. I started reading that one recently and I did kind of like the writing style. It feels very poetic. I liked the initial romance, but it was focusing on themes that I wasn't especially wanting from it. I wanted more of that romance, and what I was getting was a lot about art and about music, which is fine, but I'm just not super interested in that. So not a great success. Hopefully this will be much better. I think that since the last one I've learned a little bit more about my taste. I'm not getting super sucked into like the bookstagram hype around a book, and I'm actually considering whether I will actually like it and not just everyone likes it. So I'm going to start with the 3 books that I own physically. So the first one that I have here is The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang, and the reason why I've added this one here is because The Poppy War was in last year's video. I did give that one a really high 4. It was almost a 5. The only thing that stopped me from giving it a 5, I think, was because I didn't fully understand the magic system and the ending of the book. I just didn't fully get it. But I think that the further that I'm going to get on in the series, the more I'm going to understand all of that, and I don't think that will be a problem anymore. I really loved the first one. I thought that the world building was really good. I loved Rin as our main character, and I'm hoping that it'll only get better. I can't wait to see where the series goes, and I definitely need to read this year. I think it's on my 24 in 2024 as well, just so that I don't completely forget what's going on. But yeah, that's my first pick. The next one that I own physically is The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels by Janice Hallett. So I've added every book written by Janice Hallett onto my TBR because I read The Appeal and I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. So they're all mysteries told in this mixed media format, so they read really, really quickly. This one is like interviews, there's like pages with written writing in there, which I'm gonna guess is like a diary entry or something, and they're just so fast paced and interesting to read. And I think this one sounds especially interesting because we're following this true crime author who's basically writing about this cult who are called the Alperton Angels, and this cult basically gained notoriety because they attempted to sacrifice a baby that they believe to be the Antichrist, and it just sounds really interesting. I just have a feeling I'm gonna love it. And then the last one that I own physically is Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll, and I bought this one full price hardcover, so I'm gonna be really upset if I don't like this one. I have read a book by Jessica Knoll before, The Luckiest Girl Alive, and I didn't really like that one. I can't really remember why. I read it a long time ago now, but this one sounds very fascinating. We're basically following a couple of different women who have been affected by this serial killer in America, and it's meant to have quite a lot of commentary about true crime and about how society paints serial killers and how we sort of, I don't want to say like romanticize or glorify, but you know, kind of put them on a bit of a pedestal. And it's always the case that we know more about the serial killer than we do about any of the victims. I think I'm going to love this one because the concept reminds me a little bit of Notes on an Execution, which is one of my favourite books. I absolutely love that one. It really sort of changed my whole mindset on true crime, and yeah, since then I've just been kind of fascinated by anything to do with it. So yeah, hopefully this one will be another good one as well. The next book I don't own, but I really need to own it because I absolutely love the cover, and it's Any Man by Amber Tamblyn. So this book focuses on a female serial rapist, and it focuses a lot on the experiences of the male victims that she targets and the shame and the alienation that they feel and how they're going to try and heal from this situation. I think it has some horror and thriller elements to it, but it sounds like it's going to be very, very emotionally impactful. I think it's really interesting that this book follows the perspectives of men who've been the victim of a female abuser. I don't think I've ever read anything that's focused on that perspective, but again, I think this is another one that's going to make me think a lot. It's going to make me want to highlight and research more. I just keep putting it off because it sounds very dark, but I do want to get to it as soon as possible. I just need to find a physical copy, I think. The next one on my list is another one that's kind of horror thriller, which has a sort of dark element to it, which is going to make me think a lot. There's obviously a bit of a trend here, and that is Saving Noah by Lucinda Berry. This one is about a teenage boy who has paedophilic tendencies, or he discovers that he has perverse feelings for girls that are much younger than him. And I think that this book starts with this character basically acting on these desires, so it's probably going to be very messed up and difficult to read, but essentially this character gets sentenced to a youth offender centre that's going to try and rehabilitate him, and it's about the relationship that he has with his mum, because she doesn't want to turn her back on him, whereas the dad doesn't want him back in the home at all. So I think that this book's going to be really interesting in the sense that we're looking at how a person might react to that kind of discovery about a person that they love. Hopefully this book looks at sort of whether a person can be rehabilitated from those kinds of thoughts. I think it's very, not brave, but it's quite a taboo subject, so I think she probably got quite a lot of stick for writing a book about this, especially if it's going to have a bit of a sympathetic lens on it as well. I do like reading a book that sort of challenges my mindset already. I think it's going to be interesting to look at all of that. The next one is a bit of a rogue choice, and the only reason why I've added this is because some of my favourite booktubers have loved this book. I don't even want to look into what it's about really, so I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to tell you about it, but it's called The Other Side of Night and it's written by Adam Hamby. So like I say, I don't really know anything about this book except that it's a mystery thriller. I think it's got quite a shocking twist or a shocking ending or something, but I've seen quite a few people, Books and Lala, Gabby Reads, and also Ashley, I can't remember her channel name, and I really trust all of their recommendations. So every time I see any of them sort of mention this book, I skip past it because I just don't want to know anything. I want to go into it like completely blind. This is probably the one that is likely to not be a 5-star because do I really know anything about it? No. But when I hear people that I sort of gel with in terms of reading taste, love a book, and say that it's very surprising, then that makes me very intrigued. And yeah, this is kind of my wildcard pick. The next book on my list is another sequel, and it's The Dark Forest by Lou Sershin, I think is how you say the name. This is the sequel to The Three-Body Problem, which I read a couple months ago, and I really, really love that book. I gave it a 4.5 star, but it kind of feels like a 5 because I was just so fascinated by it. It's basically a very sort of high concept Chinese sci-fi story about so many different things. It basically starts with scientists realizing that a lot of the discoveries that we've made are actually not true. Things that we assumed were just like basic laws of the universe are actually not true. The way that it was written was so scary, and the concepts in this book are super unique and interesting. It can be a little bit complicated because it's got quite a lot of physics in there, and I don't get physics at all, but the way that he describes it and sort of breaks it down actually made it quite understandable. The first book, although it was incredible, I think it was setting up a lot for the future books and exploring this three-body problem and what it means. I think I might bump up my rating for the three-body problem to 5 stars because yeah, I just loved it. I can't actually remember why I didn't give it a 5-star, so hopefully A Dark Forest will be just as good. The next book is another mystery thriller kind of book, which has been written by someone that I've read from before and I loved it. So this one is Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConney. I read Migrations back in December and I absolutely love that book. I I gave it 5 stars. I cried at the end really hard. I did do a reading vlog whilst I was reading that book, so I'll link that below if you want to check out that. But Migrations was more of a literary contemporary story, whereas this one is more of a mystery. So I think that that added mystery is just going to really do it for me. The way that Charlotte McConney writes about nature was just so beautiful. So hopefully this one does the same. So this book is about these twin sisters from Alaska who've basically come over to Scotland to try and reintroduce some grey wolves to the area. But I think there's some sort of secret in one of the twins' lives. And then also I think a farmer is found dead. So there's a bit of a mystery around that as well. But yeah, I think all of those elements, I'm just gonna absolutely eat it up. The next book that I think I'm going to love is Chain Gang All Stars, and I'm probably not pronouncing this right, but the author is Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. This book is about the American prison system, and it's essentially a bit of a near future dystopia story. Basically, prisoners are put in these big arenas and they're made to fight, and it gets live streamed all over the world. And I think people are incentivized to join these arenas because they'll get out of prison quicker, I think is the gist of it. We're following loads of different perspectives, so we get to see this situation from different angles. It just sounds really fascinating because it's going to combine my love for dystopia and then my love for commentary on crime and prisons and all that stuff. So I really can't wait to read this one as well. And the last book on my list is kind of a bit of a cheat, I don't know. Basically it is a memoir by Chanel Miller and it's called Know My Name. The reason why I say it's cheating is because I don't normally rate non-fiction, memoirs, anything like that, but if it's a 5-star then I will give it a 5-star. I just feel like this one is guaranteed to be a 5-star. Like I don't know how I'm not going to give it a 5-star. So this is a memoir written by Chanel Miller, who, if you didn't know, was the, I think, anonymous victim at the time of the Stanford sexual assault case. This was a huge case in America, but it was absolutely huge in the UK as well. I remember the news coverage of it was just everywhere, and there was so much criticism at the time of sexual assault victims and about the leniency that is given to straight white men who come from upper class or, you know, rich parents, and just the horrific experience of being a sexual assault victim and having to go through it again with the police and having to go through the court, and it being such a public trial at the time. I remember reading her victim impact statement at the time and it was so beautifully written. It was just amazing. She wants to be able to tell her story with her name attached to it, so honestly, I don't see how I'm not going to love this book. That is all the 5-star predictions that I have this year, so that's 10 books. Quite a few of them are in my 24 books to read in 2024 video, and hopefully it's a more successful list than last year's. I think it is. I think I've really narrowed down sort of what I like. I'm really excited about this list. I feel like I just want to read all of them right now. Thank you for watching this video. Like it if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Bye!